In a fictional world where the bigger the level, the stronger you become, we hear loud noises when someone screams for help after seeing a demonic monster. At this scary moment, we meet a guy named Ye Qing. He is protagonist of this story, and he is in a very bad situation, wounded with a broken weapon with only a wooden hilt left. He has to face a strong monster alone, even though he's a level 0 abyss scavenger. This monster is a spirit wolf, and with his last attack, our hero dealt as much as 0 damage to it. Since Ye Qing is at such a low level that he can't even break through this monster's defense and his pathetic cheap weapon broke at the first hit. Now if he wants to survive, he will have to pick up the trash left behind by those who weren't brave enough to kill this demonic beast. In this world, losers like him, low-level members of society, are considered a social burden, useless people, and trash among everyone else. You could say he lives like a piece of shit. Everyone calls him a useless person, and Spirit Wolf let out a furious sound intending to deal with this trash quickly. But Ye Qing wasn't going to give up and just die like that. He realized that he was trash, but he was willing to do his best to survive. Unfortunately, determination alone was not enough, and under the onslaught of Spirit Wolf's attack, his wooden shield fell apart, and the wolf clawed at his shoulder with its jaws. Yes, anyone could say that he lived like a piece of trash. But even so, he didn't want to accept it to live like this, much less die like this. Therefore, Ye Qing was sure that he would never die like a piece of trash, even though he was currently in the monster's death grip. In a desperate attempt to save his life, he gave the beast another blow, and miraculously. This time he was lucky, and this blow was critical. Because of this, he managed to deal an incredible 1 point of damage. Not exactly what you'd expect from a critical hit, yet it was still better than 0. But before Ye Qing and Spirit Wolf's fight ends, let's go back a bit to learn more about this world, our hero, and how he got into this situation. City G, just one of many. And it was here that the Abyss Gate opened like the other cities. This particular gate was a sea gate, and through it ran someone very frightened. This was our hero, Ye Qing, and he was once again saving his ass from a monster that wanted to bite it off. Although this was a common occurrence for the senior abyssal scavenger. Fortunately, that time he had a valuable cargo in his hands, so his ass was saved by one of the players, who quickly dealt with the monster. Still, that player didn't miss the opportunity to remind Ye Qing what a useless, slow idiot he was. This was how day after day passed by our hero. His daily job was to recycle, collect, and sort the garbage left over by the job changers called players after fighting monsters. Because the supervisors of the Abyss don't allow these resources to leak out into the society of ordinary people. His job was to clean up all the barely valuable trash, if you could call it that, because even this small C-rank crystal was worth over 50,000 yuan. Although to the job changers, it was still just pathetic trash, which they weren't going to share with the others. And seeing Ye Qing leaning over the box, the overseer immediately closed it and shouted, "Hey, brat! We will count the rewards for this dungeon one by one. If you secretly hide any crystals, not only will you be fined a lot of money, but you'll also be locked in jail, understand?" Ye Qing had no choice but to accept the humiliation and calm his boss down, assuring him that he had been doing this job for years and knew all the rules. In general, the job of an abyss scavenger is usually done by poor guys like him, whose level is at 0. And if the team of players who cleaned up the dungeon did not do their job thoroughly, the lives of those 0-level scavengers will be in danger all the time they are in that dungeon. It's no exaggeration to say that often this job costs scavengers their lives. And they do it all for a measly fee of 300 yuan per dungeon cleared. Each scavenger can get 1,000th of the value of the trash picked up, which is about 600 yuan. After deducting the agency fee of 30%, the net earning is 540 yuan. It's hard to compare how small this is compared to what Ye Qing needed to earn to pay his debts. He needed 6,700,000 yuan. Although no, it was simple. He needed to successfully clear 1241 dungeons and still survive. He had to work even harder than he did now. Later, one of the scavengers approached him with an interesting offer. He had a big job to do, and the commission was higher than the usual 3,000 yuan. At that time, Ye Qing was wary of such a large payment, but he couldn't refuse to accept such a job. After all, he always needed money and everyone knew it. So that scavenger used it to pressure him and convince him that if he wanted to go, he should decide quickly and immediately follow his group. And our protagonist agreed. Soon the bus with the workers was already rushing through the streets of the city of G. It turned out that they were going to Shenfeng City's public shopping mall, because it was there that the gate to one of the Abyss dungeons, which was even mentioned in the news, had recently opened. It possibly was a rank A gate. That was why it was no wonder why the reward for this job was so high. After all, there were rumors that many groups had been wiped out, and no one had managed to clear that dungeon yet. That's why they had a subcontract in addition to their regular scavenger work. In addition to scavenging everything of value, they had another important mission, bringing back the equipment of the teams that had been wiped out. It was a cruel world where capitalists ruled everything, although it's hard to imagine how horrible it could be if it were ruled by so-called socialist communists. So in this world, those old capitalists who ruled everything were ruthless and vile. While the other scavengers were arguing about who allowed the abyss to be supervised by the capitalists, our hero was looking out the window, immersed in his own thoughts. He was remembering how all this hell on Earth had started, and how the whole brutal business had developed. It all started 10 years ago, when together with unprecedented cataclysms and destruction, the gates of the abyss from an unknown hole descended on the Earth. From these gates began to appear ugly and terrible creatures of the abyss, one more terrible than the other, right in front of people. Ordinary weapons were useless against those creatures. Only people who received unprecedented powers, the so-called job changers, had the special abilities to deal damage to the abyssal creatures. At first, they became the defense of humanity, without selfish purpose and without expecting anything in return. But soon, everything changed. As soon as demonic creatures and beasts began to die, magic crystals with an incredible amount of energy inside them began to drop out of them. Soon after, people discovered that there were not only energy products such as magic crystals in the abyss, but also various mysterious weapons and props. Therefore, just like discovering a new continent for the second time, mankind set off an uproar of the development of the abyss. A large number of traditional enterprises collapsed and the social funds were used to support the new market of abyssal industries. It became a paradise for those with abilities and high levels, and a hell for those with 0 levels. Our hero was from such people and immediately faced the fact that he couldn't find a job. Not a single company wanted to hire him. As an evil to all this, trouble one after another has fallen on Ye Qing. First, his younger sister got sick, and her treatment was too expensive. The doctor kept reminding him that the hospital was not a welfare organization, and if he couldn't pay soon, then he should take his sister and get out. Our hero had to apologize and ask him to wait a few more days until he could get the money. Soon he couldn't pay the rent, and the owner quickly came to him with claims that he owed him already 2 months' rent. In this case, the owner was not going to tolerate him any longer and ordered our hero to get out. Without money, no one needs him here. He heard the same phrase many times later, in different variations, always the same. Leave, get lost, trash, not needed. Ye Qing was desperate. He had lost everything, including hope. The employment situation is unprecedentedly bleak for level 0 players who haven't successfully changed jobs. They've basically already become useless in society. And as always in such dark times, a man in a suit with dubious intentions approached him and handed him a brightly colored flyer that offered small loan, receive in 1 second. Ye Qing was hesitant, so the man asked, "Youngster, are you in need of money?" No one was going to give him money for nothing. He needed collateral, and since he had nothing valuable, the collateral was the most valuable thing he had, his organs. He was desperate at that time, that's why he agreed to everything, and now he could only regret how stupid he was in the way he handled that money. Even the workers on the bus knew of his shame. One of them noticed Ye Qing's silence and said that he had heard that he had borrowed 1 million from a loan shark and lost everything while trading in the stock market. If he can't pay back the money, he will sell a kidney. It seems like he has a little sister who relies on him to support her. The medical bills alone cost so much. Ye Qing was silent. He had nothing to say. Meanwhile, the scavenger continued. This type of person might as well die. With the amount he is burdened with right now, he can only live like trash for the rest of his life. Finally, their bus arrived at their destination, the gateway to the ruins of the mall. A team of successful job changers were already waiting for them at the site and were not happy with the scavenger's tardiness. But they were needed because those guys advised them to stick with them, because they didn't want to take responsibility if they died because of some monster sneaking around the corner. Those so-called successful players disappeared into the gate, and the scavengers hurried after them. Ye Qing was the last to go. He was willing to work even harder than usual this time to earn more money and come back from this cursed gate alive. When he passed through the gate, he was notified that he had gotten into Underground City, Shenfeng City Public Market, B-Rank Abyss. Although he had already worked as a scavenger for many years, this time was the first time he had come to a B-Rank Abyss. And this dungeon immediately began to justify its rank. The high-level players immediately heard the noise and prepared themselves. A pack of bloodthirsty spirit wolves was coming straight at them. Something was wrong, and one of the players shouted in surprise, "Shit! A monster appeared as soon as we entered." These low-level creatures didn't pose much of a threat to the players, though. After all, it was just a pack of first-class spirit wolves, which were just more aggressive than usual. But the players had something to answer them. A fiery greeting had already been prepared by one of the players. Literally one fireball, and the entire pack of spirit wolves whimpered in fear and rushed to flee. They quickly scattered and disappeared into the darkness, only with a final growl. Seeing their flight, the muscular player advised the others, "Don't let your guards down. Demonic beasts can ambush us from any dark corners." And there were plenty of dark corners. Fearing them, one of the players asked, "Where is their destination?" The captain raised his sword up and said, "We need to go to the 5th floor." But the girl standing near him started to address him. I don't know if it's an illusion or not, she said, but it seems to me that the size of the first floor of the market has increased by more than 5 times, and the height by more than 3 times. The player with glasses said, it's just a copy based on the real world, but its internal structure is completely mutated. By the way, he continued, I don't understand why the group that had been sent here hasn't left any traces. Turning back to the scavengers, he said, you guys had better to find corpses instead of just following us. At this point, one of the players started tying his shoelaces and said, no matter where level 0 scavengers go, their only use is to be trash. Ye Qing, who was walking behind him, didn't notice this guy, causing him to trip over him and fall to the ground. The guy started to get up and yelled, watch where you're going! As soon as he approached Ye Qing and took hold of his clothes with his hands, our hero, frightened, began to apologize. But the guy started to lift him into the air, saying, bumping into trash disgusts me. I even thought I was being attacked by a monster. The commander suddenly turned around and told his fellow, don't worry, we already have a mission for these scavengers. That guy, however, kept getting angry and glaring at Ye Qing, calling him a stinky scavenger and throwing him to the ground. He also said, if you didn't know you were trash, you should stay away from me. Our hero started to raise his head and look at that guy, realizing that he was just a prick looking down on others. But while he came to his senses and picked up his clothes, that guy continued to resent them. Is this really what they call a professional team? He said. After all, they're just a burden on society, useless people who don't know how to do anything, and all they can do is just pick up trash and get in the way of the professionals. These were collective terms that society has for 0-level members. Ye Qing understood that they didn't know what it was like to be like that. Luckily, his experience was 99 out of 100, and he would advance to the next level as soon as he could gain the last 1 experience point. The scavenging team at the rear happened to come across a demon beast, and everyone naturally fled, except for our protagonist. It looks like this wolf managed to slip through the job changers. What's more interesting is the fact that this spirit wolf is currently in critical health. Ye Qing made sure that there was no one else in the room first. He also spotted a level 1 wooden shield and wooden staff strewn around the corner. The monster is already in critical condition, and his instincts are telling him to improvise. Grabbing the shabby equipment on the ground, he chose to dive in. This demonic beast is exactly the opportunity he has been waiting for so long. Ye Qing caught his momentum on a dime and turned his attention to the monster. He jumped as high as he could and managed to catch the spirit wolf off guard. With everything that he had, Ye Qing bashed the monster's head with a wooden staff. But with his puny stat line, the attack yielded no damage at all. The other scavengers were hiding themselves while calling Ye Qing dumb for fighting with a demon beast, 1 versus 1. It was like he didn't know that only job changers can deal damage to demonic beasts. Ye Qing was not a newbie. Of course, he knew that he couldn't deal damage against this thing through normal means. He was a level 0 after all. He had 1 stat point all across the board. With such weak attributes, it would be impossible to even break through the defense of the weakest monsters. This is something that he knows way better than everyone else. That was his edge. He understood this fact so clearly that he could turn it around on its head. He had to resort to using the environment as an obstacle to the spirit wolf's attacks. All Ye Qing has to do is exert even more strength than he normally would be able to do. Back on the front lines, one job changer deliberately let one demon beast go to scare the level 0 workers at the rear. They all loved the fact that they could earn a fortune by casually killing a few monsters. But the same can't be said for the scavenger team. Job changers will keep most of the expensive items, and the rest of the trash will belong to the trash to clean up. Their assassin noticed that there seemed to be another beast that managed to slip away. What followed was the terrified screams of their scavengers. The party could not care less. Red Shirt just kept on going on and on about the purple clothing that just dropped from the monster, claiming it as his. Meanwhile, Ye Qing was fighting the fight of his literal life. The wooden shield and stick were broken, and the wolf was eagerly feasting on his right shoulder's meat. It does not look good at all. But he refuses to let him rise. A rascal like Ye Qing managed to get a job shifting. Achieving the next level has enveloped him with the aura of transformation. What's his new job title, you ask? Scavenger. He became a level 1 scavenger, and in a bizarre mockery of fate, his level has been maxed out at level 1. Red Shirt was initially slack-jawed, waiting for the reveal. But when he finally saw the interface above Ye Qing's head, he could not even stifle his laughter. He could not believe that the young man would get such a bullshit job change. A level 0 trash picker worked so hard just to become a level 1 trash picker even after changing jobs. His anger has subsided. He just felt like laughing at Ye Qing's fate uncontrollably. This was supposed to be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to change his job and life, but it looks like he will remain trash. It was a perfect tragedy. Red Shirt proceeded to inform Ye Qing that everyone in the scavenger team died. The mission of cleaning up the party's mess will be Ye Qing's alone from now on. The arrogant prick turned around. He couldn't wait to tell his buddies about what had happened just now. Now that Ye Qing was alone, he mulled over his scavenger job and asked himself if it really was weak. If a scavenger's maximum level is capped at level 1, then that must mean that he can't use level-up attributes to grow stronger. But there was this bizarre ability that came with the job shift. This might be the key to everything about this weird level up. He looked at the corpse of the spirit wolf, and something happened. The system notified him that he found recyclable trash in the form of the low-level spirit wolf. At first, he did not know what to do with this information. When he answered yes to the next system prompt, the real power of his job was revealed. A dark dimension suddenly opened by him, and dozens of abyssal arms sealed by ancient charms started clawing their way out into the world. Yeching was not expecting something like this to happen at all. This is his new ability, the Abyssal Scavenger's skill. The abyssal arms started taking hold of the spirit wolf corpse, dragging it into the void. It seems a little scary, but Yeching felt in control. The wolf was dragged into nothingness just like that. Once completely swallowed, the portal started the trash decomposition process. When the disintegration was complete, the abyssal arms gave him a peace sign. Yeching gained the Spirit Dash ability and 3 attribute points. It seems like he could get ability cards and personal attribution points from corpses. He immediately opened the system attribute board to see if it really was there. He looked at the ability card, and it requires 3 points in agility to use. To test things out, Yeching decided to put all 3 of his attribute points to agility. With his 4 points in agility, he has satisfied the conditions to use the Spirit Wolf normal card. Yeching immediately confirmed its usage without missing a beat. The essence of the card quickly coalesced inside his body. After opening his eyes, he did not feel anything too different. It was kind of anticlimactic. Furthermore, the job changer party was already yelling at him to catch up and clean up the mess. Yeching could already tell that something was not quite right after his first step forward. But it was too late now. He ran faster than he had ever run before in his life. He would have gone all the way through if he had not tripped up by a loose tree root. After crashing down at incredible speed, he wonders if this was the skill he obtained earlier. Seeing the prompt that Spirit Dash is now on cooldown confirmed his thought. He got back up and sighed in relief. He slowly looked up after falling down, and was shocked by the bountiful treasure that was waiting to be harvested. Numerous spirit wolf corpses littered the floor, and all of them were recyclable by the Abyssal Scavenger ability. He not only gets attributes, but he also recycles the beast's power. Now it makes sense why an Abyssal Scavenger's max level is level 1. He did not waste any more time and did his job. He opened the portal to Abyss and summoned the arms of the Abyssal demons. He was finally assured that his new job is outrageously strong. The recycling process gave Yeching multiple attribute points by just activating his ability and standing menacingly. Ever since the first time he touched the corpse of the Spirit Wolf, he gained Soul Dash. Devouring the same type of corpse no longer yields new abilities, and the rewards gradually decrease. It looks like his skill requires the recycling of different corpses to obtain the one-time reward. Right now, he's only gaining 1 attribute point for every Spirit Wolf. All the hard work wasn't in vain, though. He managed to stockpile 111 allocatable points. Choosing which attribute to increase was a bit difficult at this point, but it seems like he won't suffer from an attribute point shortage in the future. If that's the case, an insane move might be the right one. He could just distribute his points evenly. His strength, agility, willpower, constitution, and luck have all been upgraded. Right now, his stat line was 20 points across the board. The job changers were continuing their push with their coordinated attack patterns. They managed to slay the last 2 spirit wolves in this place. They heard what happened to Yeching from Redshirt. No one has ever seen the scavenger job in the Great Job Change table before. Every year there are hidden jobs written into that table, but the most valuable job rankings hardly ever change. Most of these so-called hidden jobs are mostly for laughs. Considering that Yeching is locked at level 1, the party reckons that he mostly qualifies as an F rank at most, just a bit stronger than level 0. Never mind that trash, the party needs to move forward and stay vigilant. Unbeknownst to them, something was watching behind all the bizarre tree roots in the area. The job changers have finally arrived at the heart of this place. What they saw sent chills down everybody's spines. Up front were silhouettes of corpses that looked like they were crucified into a winding tree. There were even skeletons with branches growing from the inside. The mission target has been found. This is the remains of the Falcon Eye hunting group captain. But the existence of this mound on the 5th floor was simply too baffling. One of the job changers explained that the abyssal transformation here has not exceeded 48 hours in total, yet their bodies have dried up to a skeletal degree. Magic must be involved. On their way here, they've only encountered low-level spirit wolves, but the Falcon Eye hunting group was ranked B+. It's strange that they would fall here. When the party leader realized that something weird was going on, it was too late. The ground started shifting around as an army of the undead started rising with their dark aura. The media outside reported that an abyssal transformation has occurred at the People's Mall in Shenfeng City. It was assessed as a B-level mutation, and the current number of missing people has reached 217. Experienced job changers would immediately pull back at the sight of this undead emergence. This was simply an ambush. They'd been tricked by some being in this room. They were wondering why they hadn't found other bodies. It turns out that they were all gathered in this room, piled into a mountain of corpses. The low-level demon beasts along the way were just baits to lure the prey deeper, and the mastermind of this operation is finally revealing itself. The true master of this abyss has finally emerged. It was a high-level, abyssal man-eating plant at the precipice of reaching A rank. This monster alone would be impossible to slay. But when you look above, you will see that the entire hunting group has been reanimated as undead warriors. While the job changers were clinging to their lives upstairs, Yeching was diligently recycling corpses and taking their spirit stones at his own pace. He finally achieved the novice scavenger milestone after recycling 50 corpses. The achievement comes with a reward, and Yeching was excited to see it. It turned out to be an ordinary heart necklace of the lowest grade and a perfectly ordinary dagger. Its required level is 1 to equip. Even the rewards for achievements in this profession are trash quality. The rumbling from upstairs was getting a lot more intense by the second. Looking behind, Yeching sensed that something was coming. Hurried and erratic footsteps echoed through the halls. A female undead with parasitic branches wriggling in her mouth was running towards our hero. This was the first time he had seen such a grotesque monster, so it caught Yeching off guard. She almost landed a punch, but our boy managed to dodge on time. The action triggered an agility check that made him successfully get out of the way with a flashy move. He was so used to being powerless that he thought taking that punch would kill him, but he was starting to feel that his body had become a lot more agile. It must be because of all those attribute points. This is the perfect time to test if he really has become stronger. The undead continued bum-rushing him with no concern for defense at all. Her hands have magically turned into some sort of pincer. Yeching managed to utilize his superior agility to dodge once again. His body really has become loose and fast. And it was not just agility, he also felt the massive increase in strength. For now, he wants to take the initiative by activating the Soul Dash to close the gap. It's now his turn to dish out some damage. He's a job changer now. It will be different this time around. He won't be dealing 0 damage anymore. In fact, he would deal a ton, sending the undead to the walls. The punch triggered a strength check, causing a defense-breaking effect on the target. His physical damage will be increased by 100%. This new version of Yeching has improved beyond comparison, and he loves it. With 20 points in intelligence, his insight has been significantly enhanced, allowing him to discover a target's hidden traps. The undead lady is a parasitized human at the essence level. Her weaknesses are fire and the neck's connecting part. Even though he demonstrated how destructive he can be, she was not giving up on her bum-rushing style. This time, her hands have turned into some sort of claw. Even with upgraded stats, Yeching still has to be careful with her attacks. After dodging with a slide below the dress, he managed to create some distance from the back. Based on his insight, the neck is the weak point he can exploit. He immediately summoned the ordinary dagger that the system gave him as a milestone reward. He jumped back into combat and slashed behind her neck. It triggered a luck check, activating the dagger's bleeding effect. Yeching fell back with the purple blood dripping in his hand. He successfully severed the parasite in the lady's neck in half. The system gave the notification that he had killed a parasitized human. The purple blood dripping from his dagger to his hand triggered a constitution check, and he successfully resisted the blood poison. It was a success. This is our hero's first time killing something by himself. He could not be any happier. To add to the joy he was feeling, the parasitized human can now be recycled. He immediately activated the abyssal scavenger ability. After the recycling process, he acquired the passive skill called toxic evolution. The effects of being poisoned are reversed, and it randomly transforms into a beneficial effect. That should mean that he can drink spoiled potions as if they were buffing tonics. He swiftly took the skill card and added toxic evolution to his growing arsenal. Absorbing the parasitized human also rewarded him with 5 allocatable points. Right now, the Abyssal Scavenger has 20 points across all stats. He also got the drop of a spoiled potion, a highly toxic substance that should not be consumed. With toxic evolution, he should be fine with experimenting. For now, he wants to see the ability in action by drinking this potent poison. It was successful. The poison has healed him completely due to toxic evolution. He also acquired the essence buff, doubling his basic attributes for 10 minutes. He remembers that after raising intelligence to a certain value, he can see more hidden information about a target. This time, he wanted to allocate everything to intelligence. With the doubled stat buff, intelligence is at 50, while everything else was at 40 points. It looks like his fight with the lady parasite attracted quite a few unwelcome elements. He turned around to check out what the commotion was all about, and saw a horde of parasitized corpses rushing to get a piece of Yeching. At this moment, he recalled all the titles bestowed on him. A burden to society, trash, a useless person. Everyone called him those names without batting an eye. But now, with his newfound power, He can proudly stand up for himself and tell everyone that they're wrong. He can announce to the world that his name is Ye Qing, and he is a proud scavenger. So all this monstrous heap of parasitized trash can bring it on. Upstairs, the unfortunate job changers were besieging the parasitized Falcon Eye hunting group relentlessly. They were essentially fighting a strong B-plus party, and they were being slowly overwhelmed. Even though these undead are just moving corpses, they seem to be stronger than when they were alive. Not to mention the man-eating plant boss itself, it was just carefully observing the battle with its multiple eyes. The leader finally pulled the trigger and ordered his party to retreat. Turning their backs against such an overwhelming force was not the most optimal battle plan, but it could save their lives. Their assassin has already fallen against the undead assassin. The other one stood no chance as he got parasitized while still breathing. There was only the leader and Red Shirt remaining, and the undead were not giving them room to breathe. The boss turned around to buy some time while Red Shirt Prick continued retreating to the stairs. He only came here for easy money and equipment. He thinks that it would be a gigantic waste if he happened to die here. So the Red Shirt scum decided to cast a slow spell on his own boss. The big boss could not believe that Lao Chen would dare to put him in such a tough spot when they were supposed to be a team. Lao Chen gave a half-hearted apology while continuing to cast the slow magic. As the boss was being overrun by monsters, he promised to spend extra money on the boss's funeral when he got out. After falling down the stairs with the undead eviscerating his body, the last thing that the boss saw was Lao Chen's traitorous back. The prick convinced himself that wouldn't lose anything if he ran off now. At least he would still have the loot. At most, he might need to make up an excuse for the team's defeat outside. But he just happens to bump into Ye Qing on the way out. At first, he thought he was done for that he came across another enemy. But no, it was just that trash boy again. Ye Qing saw everything. He saw how this scumbag betrayed his teammates just to survive on his own. Lao Chen also happened to see the recycling process of heaps and piles of parasitized humans that dared to go up against our hero. He asked if this was all Ye Qing's doing. He did not even register how much power it takes to do that to a horde of undead. All Lao Chen could think about was that he could not let Ye Qing leave this place, as they guy might snitch on him to the committee. Lao Chen stood up and told Ye Qing that this was his time to stand out. He can just go ahead and feed himself to the monsters to buy time. The prick dared to try and catch him off guard with a kick, but a strength check was triggered, and the attack was invalidated and backfired. The scumbag fell on the floor, writhing and cursing in pain. He was confused. Ye Qing felt his anger boiling up. This Lao Chen bastard really was inferior to even trash. So he wanted to try something and opened the gates to the abyss, letting the abyssal arms go wild. Lao Chen did not know what hit him and kept on calling his mom for help as the arms dragged him into the nothingness. At first, the trash sorting process started progressing, but it ultimately rejected Lao Chen as unrecyclable trash. Lao Chen was ejected by the abyss. It seems like not all trash can be recycled after all. But the experiment wasn't fruitless. Ye Qing's recycling ability has been upgraded. He can now recycle the target's abilities if they consent. He also gained the Spellmaster 3-minute experience card. Ye Qing reckons that if the target is passed out, that may circumvent the consent by default. This loophole was quite convenient. He also used the Spellmaster 3-minute experience card. After recycling Lao Chen again, he gained the controller of all flames ability. He can now use Fireball, and with his high initial stat triggering Overcast, can evolve Fireball into the Great Flame Explosion, which would be quite convenient as he was now about to face countless parasitized humans. The monsters were literally at the doorstep, shouting their undecipherable gibberish. Ye Qing wanted to test out the Fireball skill. He saw Lao Chen go over the steps and just copied the scumbag's motions. The firepower from that one attack was quite astounding to behold. It essentially destroyed a significant portion of the mutated mall to bits. He accidentally wiped out a horde of parasitized humans using one simple spell, which sucks for him as he hasn't even had the time to recycle their corpses yet. His attack was so powerful that it left nothing but smoke. To add to his misfortune, the undead assassin was also aiming for his neck with its lethal double daggers. His environmental perception has leveled up to insane heights, though. He noticed the attack coming from a mile away. His high agility also allowed him to react and dodge just in time before getting diced. For now, Ye Qing chose to create some distance between him and the assassin. He did not dare remove his eyes from the agile monster. The assassin was relentless with its attacks, but our hero was way faster. He only has the simple dagger as his melee weapon, so this will be a dagger showdown. He has gotten quite adept at using the short blade. He was actually going toe-to-toe with a B+ ranked assassin boosted by a parasite. Ye Qing was starting to get worried as he had not learned any close combat skills yet. Behind him was the corpse of the party leader, slowly undergoing the transformation of being controlled by a parasite. Ye Qing knew that no one would want their corpse resurrected as a mindless killing machine after death. He might as well use the leader as a boost. The recycling process has graciously gifted him the golden shield. Ye Qing swiftly used the card and a golden shield manifested on his other hand. Gripping its handle with as much strength he could muster, he prepared an attack. Using the golden shield to bash and the dagger to behead at the same time proved to be effective in dealing with the assassin. Ye Qing casually dropped a powerful monster in an impressive display of skill and coordination. But he cannot waste more time. He also needs to recycle the corpse of this fallen enemy. Wishing the monster to rest in peace, the recycling granted him the Dagger Mastery card. Using the card would enable him to wield a dagger like an assassin when unleashing a barrage of stabbing attacks. Just gaining this passive ability made him feel like the dagger had become more flexible in his hands, as if it has become a part of his body. The party's mission is to find the Falcon Eye group and bring them out of the instant dungeon. Lao Chen confirmed that with his interrogators. Ye Qing bravely faced wave after wave of undead monsters with just an ordinary dagger and a golden shield. He was starting to gain confidence in his newfound power. Lao Chen interrogators noted that if the party fails to find the bodies of the Falcon Eye group, the mission would be deemed a failure, and no one would receive any rewards. Our hero continued to recycle to left and right. He has obtained the violence ability, raising his strength and agility significantly, and making him immune to control skills. He essentially bulldozed through the enemies from that point on. Lao Chen kept on being questioned about the whereabouts of the Falcon group corpses in the dungeon. He swore that he had found them already, but everything in that place had been recycled already. Ye Qing managed to wipe out every last parasitized human in the area, and it's about time to deal with the big boss, the unnerving abyssal man-eating plant. And this boss was defeated by our hero and his abyssal recycle hands as well. All Lao Chen could say to the committee outside was that the monsters in the dungeon were all dragged into the abyss by that person. Let's have a look at the interrogation room of the Abyss Supervisor Committee. Lao Chen is the sole survivor of the mission. And as far as the committee knows, that person he kept on mentioning does not exist. Another strange thing that the committee noticed was that Lao Chen's level had reverted to level 1 when they found him. This was unprecedented. The scumbag was starting to look like a lunatic as he reiterated that his abilities were also recycled by that person. That person he kept on mentioning was that unnamed trash picker. Everything he said, and the way he said it, simply indicates that Lao Chen has gone insane. His pollution level from the abyssal energy is sky high. The committee thinks that this is causing him to hallucinate. No matter how much he appealed that he was being truthful, nobody believed Lao Chen. Meanwhile, something was happening at the entrance of another B-rank abyss. After killing the abyssal man-eating plant, Ye Qing sold all the magic crystals on the black market, but he only received about 30% of its value. The crystal business has always been monopolized by large enterprises, so private sales are illegal. The black market provides an alternative at the cost of 70% as a handling fee. His profits were barely enough to pay off the debt he owed to loan sharks in the past few years. He was left with no surplus funds at all. Ye Qing was aware that if he kept on using recycling in front of other people, he could be reported to the supervisors. Since he isn't awakened with a strange hidden job, it wouldn't be too far-fetched for the authorities to lock him up as research material for years. All he knows is that he must make more money while he still has his freedom. The party leader of this new mission started giving the rundown for this newly spawned abyss. Everything inside was still unknown, so the risk was high. But the rewards are proportionally higher, double the usual amount. They would only take people who are over B rank inside. Ye Qing stepped forward and asked if he could qualify for the mission. He revealed that he was just a level 1 scavenger. The party leader started laughing hysterically. The misfortune of Ye Qing's title never fails to earn some laughs and insults from ignorant people. But this was calculated. If he makes them think he is weak, people will lower their guard. He'll probably secure a role at the back of the group to take on a supporting role like usual. In that case, he can secretly collect corpses and trash behind everyone's backs. This is his lazy but genius plan. While the party leader was making fun of him, a silky smooth voice filled with authority ordered the leader to let go. Everyone started murmuring. They recognized the newcomer as the daughter of the famous Liu family, the one who awakened the God-chosen job. With long white hair, a gorgeous face, and equipment that was easy to move in, the real boss of the mission appeared and approved Ye Qing's admission. She is the rising star of the hunting group known as the God-chosen ones, Liu Xingran. The armored boy continued to reject a level 1 scavenger without any proof of qualification. But Liu Xingran thinks it doesn't matter. Everyone in here was just trash added to make up the numbers. Armored boy almost drooled after interacting with the goddess. He knows that this abyss is Liu family's property, and Liu Xingran has the final say. Ye Qing thought he was going to get kicked out of such a juicy mission, but playing the role of trash works. Liu Xingran was seemingly keeping an eye on him, though. Now that he was seeing her up close, he could not shake off the feeling that he had seen this woman somewhere before. His brain and intelligence stat did their thing and he arrived at an answer. It was that time about 2 years ago. Liu Xingran broke her blade in the middle of a dungeon run. Fortunately, Ye Qing was there to pick up the slack as she froze in the middle of battle. Using an ordinary stick, he managed to deal 1 point of critical hit damage against a bear monster. The trajectory and power were just right to skewer the fearsome beast's head cleanly. As far as Liu Xingran knew, this guy was just the Scavenger, and he managed to kill a demon beast. This was also the first time that Ye Qing had successfully killed a monster and gained his first experience point. He almost forgot to ask her if she was okay. She only heard rumors about this. She didn't expect that there was actually anyone that would try this insane job-changing method. She found it ridiculous that this guy was trying to do the impossible, and she asked him why. His answer was quite simple back then. He's doing the impossible to make some money, obviously. Liu Xingran does not believe it. This way of gaining experience was just a ticket to death. He just ignored her protests while collecting the magic crystals that were not even his. She just doesn't get what predicament he is in. Job changers think they're superior. They could not understand how bitter and hard the lives the trash of society lives. Besides, she's the one who left the group to move forward alone. She was practically throwing her life away too. When faced with demon beasts, Liu Xingran just rushes in. She was doing so because she wanted to become a lot stronger. She wants to become the first one to conquer that place. When asked what place she was talking about, she returned the question and asked what's the real purpose why he wanted to change jobs. Ye Qing thought for a second and answered in one word, family. He wants to become stronger to protect his family, and he will get there no matter how perilous the journey would be. Liu Xingran was impressed by his motivation and asked him his name. With the clear eyes of a man with a goal, he told her his name was Ye Qing. She also properly introduced herself and expressed that she would be looking forward to his success one day. And once he gets the job changed, he could join her group to conquer that place together. Ye Qing did not expect this haughty rich lady to take him seriously and even offer a hand to shake. He took the offer and told her not to slow him down when the time came for them to work together. It seems like that won't be a problem though. She killed 30 demon beasts by herself in this mission. Ye Qing just finished off 1 wounded monster. She would gladly count that as half a beast. At that moment, her security team rushed into the scene. They'd been looking for her for ages after secretly sneaking into the depths of the abyss. They also yelled at Ye Qing the Scavenger to move away from their precious lady. The president was already furious. He almost broke the security team's legs. So they had to drag Liu Xingran out of this place. Before being taken back to the real world, she tossed something towards Ye Qing. He promptly caught it and saw a single piece of magic crystal. This was his reward for killing half a beast. While the two people from different worlds walked on opposite paths, they had a mutual understanding of each other's will. Back to the present, Ye Qing was lost in thought for quite a while before remembering Liu Xingran's name. After hearing him mumble her name, Armored Boy slapped him on the back of his head. He was dawdling when he was supposed to be moving crystals. Before entering the abyssal dungeon, Ye Qing steeled his resolve to try his best not to drag the others down. 2 years later, Liu Xingran seemed colder than she had been. The only thing on her mind was completing the dungeon. And so, the newly formed party lined up to enter the unknown. This time, Ye Qing had to work hard to make money while keeping his life. When he fought his way out of the abyss last time, he managed to master the gold shield, turning into a shield warrior. With the help of dagger mastery, he could also be a lethal assassin. Another thing that helped him defeat the final boss was his new berserker abilities. And when he was done with the abyssal man-eating plant, he also obtained its ability. He now possessed that monster's super regeneration. Because of his radar chart point-adding method, no matter which career form he took on, there wouldn't be any shortcomings. The attribute points he had gained were divided equally among 6 attributes. He had been able to pile up over 100 points each. He had been the one who wiped out every last recyclable monster in the previous abyss. Ye Qing wondered what level the equivalent of 100 attribute points would be. Fortunately, he had a way to find that out now with his observing eye and attribute perception ability. The warrior of this party only had 12 points in strength and a single point in intelligence. That must mean that he was approximately 12 times the strength of a mere mortal job changer. With Ye Qing's strength attribute at a whopping 100 points, he must be around 100 times stronger than a mortal. He was walking while assessing everyone in the team, and accidentally triggered a trap that made the walls move in his direction. Everyone turned around as they felt some sort of earthquake just now. Instead of getting crushed, Ye Qing just casually pressed the wall back into place and told everyone that the underground structure could be a bit unstable. He escaped further questions as the vanguard discovered a chest up ahead. They found some treasure, but they did not have an assassin on their team to pick the lock. This should be an A-rank chest at least. Since they wouldn't be getting anywhere with this, Ye Qing raised his hand and volunteered to give it a shot. Everyone watched in doubt as their scavenger tried to pick the lock of an A-rank chest. Judging by all the valuable treasures flowing out of the opened chest, it's safe to say that he succeeded. With his ridiculous stats, picking this lock was extremely easy. The ability to pick locks is a skill that only an assassin higher than level 5 should be able to learn. Yeching just told them that as a level 1 scavenger, he learned a lot of convenient abilities. Armor Boy assured everyone that the loot would be distributed after the mission ended. For now, they must push forward. But before going even deeper into the dungeon, Yeching picked up a rock and stopped everyone from moving. He threw the little piece of rock, and it bounced all over the concrete hall. Then the traps revealed themselves, as the walls started closing in, revealing their deadly spikes. Some of the team members were doubting if he really was a level 1 scavenger. He kept on excusing himself as nothing more than just an experienced trash picker who picked up a few useful skills like spotting traps here and there with trap perception. Liu Xingran was not sure what to make of him yet. When the system ran a deception check, it became easier for everyone to be persuaded by Yeching's words. This was the power of 100 points in intelligence. Armored Boy arrogantly thanked him for his vital services with a normal grade one-handed mace. It seems like their evaluation of him had not improved at all. Continuing forward, the party came across what looked like a secret treasure at the end of the level. But the road to get here was too simple. They were beginning to think that this abyss might have one of those rare reward rooms without monsters. In the middle of the strange room was a stone table and a goblet full of some crimson substance. The system confirmed that this was a unique abyss type. Liu Xingran had to remind everyone not to celebrate prematurely. They must pay attention in case anything critical happens. The warrior refused to believe that the stone tablet was all there was to this abyss. But since they obtained the final treasure, they could probably leave now. But the boiling of the crimson substance in the goblet suggested otherwise. As the crimson liquid shot up into the air, everyone was notified that the blood trial would now commence. They got too complacent. This is not a reward room at all, this is a massive trap. The blood from the goblet has formed into the feared blood nightmare. As Liu Xingran was taking her blade out, she barked out the orders to prepare for battle. The hulking blood nightmare split into multiple smaller monsters with disfigured skulls. Yeching felt calmer than ever. In order to prevent the exposure of his attributes, he decided to fight with about 25% of his strength this time. This would only be possible with the Ring of Weakness, a trash tier item. This is an accessory that only reduces attributes. Sure enough, useless things can come in handy sometimes. The party stayed close to one another as the blood nightmares slowly crept in with their murderous circle formation. Yeching wanted to take the battle into the opponent's face with a spirit dash. The entire party was struggling with their conventional way of fighting, with everyone playing a role while their scavenger was walking on air in the background. No one saw him move except for Liu Xingran. She also noticed that he dispatched a formidable enemy in one strike. With his normal dagger, Yeching massacred one of the blood nightmares mercilessly. Liu Xingran's eyes were locked on their scavenger. She found him more interesting than the blood nightmare right in front of her. These types of enemies were not even worthy of being looked at. She can just brandish her blade with countless slashes in a single second and dismember monsters' bodies into 1,000 pieces. Even the party's designated warrior could not do that. One cut and the enemy bursts into chunks. This is when the next problem presented itself. They managed to fight off the first wave of the attack, but the blood nightmares were condensing back together. They were even taking the form of humans. The blood nightmare's original state is very fragile, but it can strengthen itself by imitating the opponent's form. Still, the party's warrior was able to prevail against the transformation by beheading the blood nightmare that took on his form. The mage praised him for a job well done, and he was feeling proud of himself. But he celebrated a little too early. Even without a head, the blood nightmare's movements seemed unaffected. His eyes were wide open in disbelief as the headless monster went crazy. The warrior was too late to react to the incoming slash and painfully lost his right arm in the process. As for the blood nightmare, it was already back in its peak warrior imitation form as the human warrior screamed in pain. If beheading the enemy is no use, this enemy might just be unkillable. As the blood nightmare raises its blood sword into the air, the warrior has lost the ability to dodge or even perceive what's about to happen. With full ferocity, the blood nightmare swung down the blood blade ruthlessly. And then, you'll find out